Welcome to my lesson, my superstars of primary 4. I have to remind you about my name. I'm Saddam, and when you see me, just know we shall be talking SST. Don't say, hey, our mathematics teacher has come. No, SST or social studies. And today I have basically come to wind up our lesson and our topic about vegetation. Now, but before we go to what we are going to deal with today, I left you with an activity that we have to first go through, and you mark yourselves. I'll be happy when you get everything right. And one time I'll be moving around to check on you physically, and I come with gifts. Are we there? So just wait for me. I will come and we share gifts, mainly for these people who get my work very well. Those who concentrate and they pass everything. Now I left you with an activity, 5 numbers we have to go through. But remember, if there is something that can distract you, please push it away. If your siblings are around you and they can disturb you, tell them, auntie, call your auntie. Auntie, come for my friends. I first have my lesson with my teacher. Now, let's go activity review. We have to go through the work I left you with. Question number 1, what are crops? Someone putting up the hand. I expect you to have crops are plants that are grown for food or sale. Tick. Number 2, mention the 2 types of crops. Here we have cash crops and food crops. Do you still remember the meaning of cash crops? Crops grown for sale, then food crops. Crops grown for food. Question number 3. Why should people grow crops? 1, crops provide food to people. Crops can be sold for money, etc. Question number 4, how are crops useful to the community? Now you find that question number 3 is the same as question number 4, but just in a change of the way they are asked. Now here we have, why should people grow crops? The uses of crops actually. And here we have, how are crops useful? Still the uses of crops. So a great person passes number 3 and number 4 as well. Now we can say, crops provide food in the, to the community. People in the community can sell crops and get money, etc. Last question, list any 3 non-traditional cash crops. In other words, they are asking for food crops. I expect you to begin by what you like most. Bananas. Oh, wow. Some people have sweet potatoes, beans, tomatoes, and so many others. 5 out of 5? Okay, now write the sweetest comment you want. I've given you permission. And don't forget to pat your back. Now, friends, if you missed out some numbers, you make corrections. And today be attentive so that you don't fail a number. Now, what are we going to have today? Today we are going to learn about vegetation distribution. And I am telling you, my friends, by the end of this lesson, you are going to be a star. You'll be able to define vegetation distribution, factors that determine vegetation distribution, examples of good and bad human activities, and we shall also see the way of how we can care for vegetation. Now, friends, as you know, we work in sessions, and I know you are used to sessions. Our first session is about the definition of vegetation distribution. Have you ever heard of vegetation distribution? Distribution comes from which word? Distribute. You know what we mean by distribute? When I say distribute those mangoes, what do? I know you run for them. Now, I want you just to tell me what you think vegetation distribution is. Vegetation, then distribution. Okay. We want to see if someone has something related to mine. Now we are going to read it together since I have a very big screen here. So we shall say, vegetation is the way vegetation is spread in an area. The way how vegetation is located according to different places, as from the word distribute. For example, did you know that some places have very thick vegetation? And sometimes you go to a place and you wonder, which kind of vegetation is this one? You see the grass in the state of death and you say, why is it like that? But that is how the vegetation of that place is. Now this is what I mean when I talk of vegetation distribution. We mean the way vegetation is spread in an area. For example, are you able to see the vegetation of this place? Now let's say this is place A. The vegetation of this place may not be the same as that place where you stay. Now there is also this place here. This place here. You see, it is very thick, a thick forest, and that is the vegetation of this place. So you find that different places have different kinds of vegetation, and that is what we call vegetation distribution. The way how vegetation is spread, is distributed in an area. Different places have different kinds of vegetation. Some places it is a lot, like you can see the vegetation distribution of this place, it is a lot. Then you can also see here trees are scarce. You can even count them. How many are they? Someone will say 2 or 3 because you are able to see it has a lot of grass. Are we there? So that is what we call vegetation distribution. So when you hear someone saying vegetation distribution, is actually meaning the way how vegetation is spread in an area. Now we have to continue and see section 2. What do we have in section 2? Factors that determine or influence vegetation distribution. Yeah. Now, which things make places have different kinds of vegetation? Actually, they are the ones we call factors that determine. Are you able to think of some of the factors that determine vegetation distribution? Which factors bring about places having different kinds of vegetation? Like you find this place, the plants look so healthy, look so beautiful, look so good, but then you go to another place, you find trees when they are very short like this, as if they don't want to grow tall. Even you find some places, the trees are too big and too tall. What brings about that? They are the factors that influence. To influence actually is to cause change. Are we there? We can use the words like determine, influence, affect. Which factors cause changes in vegetation of places? They are the ones we are going to see here. Okay, one is called soil. Everybody, soil. Repeat after me, soil. Now in this case, you find that some places have fertile soil, others have infertile soil. Now, my friends of P4, what happens to the vegetation when the place has fertile soil? Oh, it grows very well. It becomes thick. So you would find that the places that have fertile soil, they will have thick vegetation. What about places with infertile soil? You will find scanty vegetation or poor vegetation. So that change that comes in as a result of either fertile or infertile soil will be one of the factors that have caused the changes or the distribution of vegetation. Are we together? Now we also have altitude. Now altitude here is the height above the sea level, above the normal level. Have you gone to the beaches? Hope most of us have been there. Now when you see the water in the lake, it does not come out and overflow to go to people's houses. That level there where it stops is the sea level we are talking about. So the height above sea level can also affect the way vegetation is distributed. For example, on very highland places like a mountain is on top there is no vegetation. Simply because the place up is too cool. Because when you go up, it becomes cool. When you are down, it is hot. That's why every time you go to our school library, you even say, this way is very cool, because it is a bit high, it is on a high altitude. So now, places that are too high, like a mount on the top of a mountain, you don't find their vegetation. Or if you find their vegetation, it's very little compared to these other places when you are climbing the mountain from down. So you find the down part, the footsteps of the foothills of the mountain, it has very good vegetation. Even when you continue, you can find the forest, but then you can find some places and there is no vegetation. So that is how it causes vegetation distribution. Places that are found on a high altitude have less vegetation, or sometimes they don't have vegetation. Now we also have climate. Here we mean rainfall and temperature. What happens to a place that receives a lot of rainfall, like now Mabira place? When you go to Mabira in P5, when I take you to Mabira, you are going to see the difference in vegetation there. It is thick because that place has good climate or receives a lot of rainfall. But when you go to northeastern Uganda, that's Karamoja, the vegetation there, you hardly find a very big tree in Karamoja. Why? The climate is not so good. It does not receive enough rainfall. Are we there, friends? And lastly, we have human activities. The activities we do, the activities our parents do, they are those good activities that can promote vegetation, but they are also bad activities that can destroy the vegetation of a place. Now, so these are some of the factors that make the vegetation of places different. That's why when you go to Bundi, you find a lot of trees. And when you go to Karamoja, you hardly find a very tall tree. Are we together, my friends of P4? Those are the factors that bring about the difference in vegetation distribution. Now, we have to look at some human activities that are very, very dangerous to vegetation. Because you find in Kampala, this place had a lot of vegetation. But when you look around, you see flats, the one you call flats, we call them skyscrapers or storied buildings. All of those places had vegetation. But what happened? We cut the vegetation. We destroyed it. So now we have the human activities which destroy vegetation or that affect the vegetation negatively. We have one, deforestation. We learned about all this, bush burning and overgrazing, as you can see some of them here. We also have mining. Now these bad human activities will reduce the vegetation, as you can see, my friend. You can see here. Someone got annoyed and went and started clearing all these trees. So this is a bad human activity. And in places that have bad human activities, they will have less vegetation. Then with good activities, they have thick vegetation. Are we there? We also have the bush burning, where you find people burning the bushes. That is a bad human activity. It affects the vegetation. So my friends, we also have mining. Now before you extract minerals from the ground, you first have to clear vegetation, then you can begin digging up the land to get the minerals. So those are bad human activities, overgrazing, overcultivation. Let's avoid them because they bring about vegetation distribution. They reduce mainly the vegetation, they destroy the vegetation of a place. So the vegetation, the place that used to have thick vegetation, you will find when it has very little vegetation. Now, there are also good human activities or activities that can promote the vegetation. One is afforestation. Everybody, afforestation. Let's spell the word afforestation very quickly. 1, 2, 1, we go. Very good. We also have reforestation and we have agroforestry. We know the meaning of all these terms. Here, the first one, afforestation, planting of trees where they have never been, reforestation, planting of trees where they have been cut, and agroforestry, planting of trees together with crops. So when we do that, we shall be promoting vegetation. Now a question can be, how do human activities influence vegetation distribution? Here is the answer. You simply say, good human activities promote vegetation. All places with good human activities have thick vegetation. And of course, the vice versa. Places with bad human activities leads to destruction of vegetation. Places with good climate have thick vegetation. Places with little rainfall or with bad climate have scanty vegetation or few vegetation. Now, we are going to continue session 3. How can we care for vegetation? How do you care for vegetation around your home? Vegetation around your home? Do you have some flowers and grass around your home? Then trees? How do you take care of these kinds of these plants? One, we have by watering plants or vegetation. We also have by pruning vegetation, by thinning and by fencing the vegetation. Are we there? Here it was an error. We are supposed to have thinning. Let's spell the word thinning very quickly. Thinning, thinning. Okay? Now I have some of the illustrations here. Also by trimming vegetation. Like when you come at school, you find the trees when they are so beautiful, they have good shapes. We trim them. Are we there? So also by weeding, you can weed your crops so that they can grow very well. We have this is pruning. You reduce the excess branches of a tree. That helps to reduce competition and the plant grows very well. We also have thinning. You find that the vegetation is congested, you can remove some so that the ones that remain, you can see this is before thinning, this is after. Here it also reduces competition for food nutrients and crops will grow very big, or plants will grow very big and tall. Now we also, we have come to an end of our lesson and we have basically talked about vegetation distribution. How vegetation is spread or is distributed in different places. We have talked about the factors that that influence vegetation distribution, and we said we have 1, soil, altitude, human activities, and so many others. There are those good human activities that promote vegetation, like afforestation, agroforestry, and reforestation. So I want to thank you for being very, very good audience, very good children. I love you so much, and I have organized for just some few numbers for you to try out. I hope you can try them out very well, and you produce good results. Allow me end here and wish you have a lovely day, lovely moment. Help your parents without house chores. I love you. See you in the next lesson.